breaking news out of Boston, Massachusetts. Several articles were published in the summer of 2023 online by multiple news outlets including Mass.gov, Patriot Ledger, Insurance Journal, Agency Checklists, WHDH Channel 7, and this was the news. Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell announced on May 3, 2023, the sentencing of social media influencer, 26-year-old Dion Augustine, also known as NEWVIBECO or NEWVIBECEO, to 2.5 years in prison for an automobile insurance fraud scheme prosecuted by her office. Mr. Augustine pleaded guilty in March to a series of fraudulently obtained high-end luxury cars, staged accidents, and hefty insurance claims. Here's how the fraud operated. Mr. Augustine's elaborate scheme took place from August 2016 through December 2017. Augustine and his co-conspirators purchased an impressive array of luxury vehicles including a Bentley, a Maserati, and 2 Fisker Karmas and multiple other exotic vehicles. A co-conspirator is someone who plans secretly with one or more other people to do something bad or illegal. Mr. Augustine, who was 19 then, was the head of the operation. He purchased these vehicles by misrepresenting his creditworthiness and the creditworthiness of his several co-conspirators, who he used as straw purchasers of these vehicles. A straw buyer, or straw purchaser, is a person who purchases on behalf of another person. A straw buyer is used when the real buyer cannot complete the transaction for some reason. However, the act of using a straw purchaser is considered illegal, where the transaction involves fraud or purchasing goods for someone who is legally barred from making the purchase themselves. After securing insurance on these luxury vehicles, Mr. Augustine deliberately staged motor vehicle collisions to cause the insurance carrier to declare a total loss and report the collision to the police and insurance company as accidental. You may be wondering what was the benefit of doing that? Well, Augustine and his co-conspirators would get their loans paid off in full by the insurance, which then increased their credit scores and allowed them to get approved for even more loans or larger credit lines, which they used to get luxury apartments and furniture. How did he get caught? After following up on the IFB's referral and investigating Mr. Augustine's activities for 2 years, the Attorney General's office presented its evidence to a statewide grand jury. It took approximately a year to present all the evidence to the grand jury. Investigators used surveillance footage from the banks and also Augustine's social media and YouTube videos, which he has since taken down. On July 10, 2020, this grand jury indicted Mr. Augustine on 7 counts of larceny by false pretenses and 8 counts of motor vehicle insurance fraud. You may be wondering, what about everyone else who was involved? Augustine co-conspirators were not charged in the indictment, and we are given immunity as they all cooperated with law enforcement and agreed to testify against him if the case were to go to trial. Augustine had to watch the people he believed to be his friends turn against him. Bail. On July 22 of 2021, more than a year after Mr. Augustine was originally indicted in 2020, he was finally arraigned. It was mentioned by prosecutors to the judge that it took law enforcement officers more than 18 months to find Mr. Augustine. Mr. Augustine was able to elude officers by purchasing a luxury motor home to avoid being caught by police. Officers received a crime tip from an informant to locate him. Augustine pleaded not guilty, but was remanded into custody as the Superior Court judge arraigning Mr. Augustine initially set bail at $1 million, with surety or $100,000 in cash. After 3 months of pretrial detention, a different judge reduced Mr. Augustine's bail to $250,000 with surety or $25,000 in cash, with the stipulation he surrender his passport. On November 19, 2020, the court released Mr. Augustine on bail, with a curfew and GPS monitoring after he posted the $25,000 bond. On May 19, 2022, Augustine violated his conditions of release by cutting off his bracelet after nearly 6 months on the GPS monitor. Augustine was taken back into custody and held without bail this time. Sentencing. In December of 2022, Augustine made a bold move and fired his attorney and elected to represent himself instead. On following court dates after he elected to represent himself, Augustine scheduled a pretrial lobby conference hearing and provided the court with his own sentencing recommendation, which was that he serve his time in the House of Corrections. The maximum amount of time in county jail is 2.5. The only time you see someone spend more time in county jail is if a person receives an and after sentence, Augustine had a lengthy hearing, where he explained to the court the reasons why he thought his recommendation was adequate. The Assistant Attorney General on the case presented the court with a sentence memorandum which he proposed Augustine serve of 4 to 6 years in state prison based off of the Massachusetts sentencing guidelines, with 3.5 years of that sentence being mandatory. But in March of 2023, Mr. Augustine got what he wanted. He pleaded guilty to all the charges in the Norfolk Superior Court. Judge Douglas Wilkins subsequently sentenced Mr. Augustine to 2.5 years in the Norfolk House of Correction as opposed to the 4 to 6 year prison sentence the AG's office was asking for, followed by 2 years of probation. Before the judge handed down the sentence, he stated on the record that Mr. Augustine had a lot of potential to change his life around, and is extremely intelligent, and should use that intelligence for good and pursue an education. So what now? The court laid down stringent conditions for Mr. Augustine's probation period. During his probationary period, he is prohibited from contacting witnesses related to the case, and is barred from purchasing or selling automobiles, either in his name or anyone else's name. Also, the court will determine the restitution amount Mr. Augustine will pay to the defrauded insurers at a subsequent hearing. How much exactly did he scam for? Mr. Augustine's scheme led to a loss of over $397,720 from lenders, and caused insurance losses of more than $255,152.19. Furthermore, there was another $304,955 in loans that were declined. According to the Attorney General, Mr. Augustine's criminal activities wasted public resources as his scheme used the public ways of the Commonwealth to stage these collisions. To support his false claims, Mr. Augustine wasted police resources from Boston, Milton, Avon, Waltham, the state police, and emergency medical services. In announcing Mr. Augustine's sentence, Attorney General Campbell emphasized the severity of insurance fraud crimes, like the one perpetrated by Mr. Augustine. Such acts are not victimless crimes. They lead to increased premiums for honest policyholders, and misuse of public resources, causing a widespread societal impact. What did he spend the money on? Attorney General Office states that Augustine has bought and owned multiple businesses, including a car dealership, a music studio, a hookah bar, beauty salon, and a wellness spa. Mr. Augustine invested his illegally obtained money into legitimate businesses, and had multiple employees, which all fall under his brand's name NEWVIBE. Mr. Augustine's brand NEWVIBE was founded in late 2015, and currently has 5 different divisions: NEWVIBE CCC, NEWVIBE Baddies, NEWVIBE Lounge, NEWVIBE Beauty, and NEWVIBE Health. Augustine was credited for the 10 months he spent behind bars. Pending the conclusion of this case, Augustine filed a motion for jail credits for an additional 3 months that he served prior to bailing out, but had that motion denied by the judge. Augustine served an additional 8 months behind bars, making it a total of 18 months altogether. He has been released on parole on September 27, 2023. Now the question is, what will Mr. Augustine do now that he's released? Will he go back to his old ways, or will he do the right thing, like the judge suggested he does? I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Alright, so Lennon, you're my witness, right? So it's my first day home. What's today's date?
27.
27, okay. Bro, before my birthday's New Year's Eve, so by my birthday, Cuban, droopy, apartment, lit, whip, I can't call it. It's gonna be crazy, but I'm gonna be up at least 100 bins.
In the works.
So that's October, November, December. That's 90 days. I'm about to show y'all the craziest 90-day run, nigga. On dogs. Y'all niggas have never seen some shit like this. No funny shit. It's too easy, bro. It's actually not easy, but it's easy once you get the hang of it. But that's all I'm gonna say. When I record the next video, when we together on my birthday, remember what I said, and we gonna put this video before, edit it all together so y'all know. You hip?
You can have the shit.
Say no more. Say no more. I'm out.